Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. Welcome in. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the sports betting network. Mitch Moss along with Paulie Howard. And we are live, as always, in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Fun 3-hour program lined up today. Plenty on the playoff action, again, that we have going on tonight in the NBA and in the NHL. A lot of reaction to get into. Some bets, I think, that can be made regarding the lottery that dropped yesterday in the NBA. Great guest on the program as well, Nick Whalen. Props tonight in the association. Nick Alberga, who joins us. We'll talk NHL with him. And Neil Parker on the program today to go over the PGA. Second major of the year is this week. Paulie, I'll begin by asking you this. Did you agree with the NBA's decision to not suspend Victor Wembanyama for Game 5?
Yes. I also don't think he should have been kicked out of the game. I agree with Mitch Johnson and others that if they call the foul like they're supposed to, he doesn't lose his mind, and then he just starts swinging, and then the alien catches Naz Reid. Just unfortunate that everyone's watching Sunday night, coming off one of the best playoff performances ever, with 36, 15, and 5, only done by Hakeem, Shaq, and Kareem, and the guys tossed early.
Toss with 8:39 to go in the second quarter. The earliest an All-Star has been ejected from a playoff game in the play-by-play era, which goes back to 1997.
Yeah.
That's per ESPN research. I did see a lot of people, like on my Twitter feed anyway, suggest, and these are like NBA people, they thought that he was going to be suspended. They thought that he actually should have been. But it's weird the way the league does this because he doesn't really have a history.
No.
If that's Draymond Green, he's probably kicked out of the playoffs.
Yeah. Also,
I mean,
it's an accident, and he didn't even know he was going to get tossed too. But it certainly changed things in play, and it changed the series. And also, I will come back though and say they still should have won the game. They're up 8 with 8 minutes.
How good is Mitch Johnson as a coach?
Yeah.
The adjustments to go small ball.
That was great.
And you saw all that young talent on display. They're loaded at guard, man. They got a ton of dudes.
Yep. Fox goes 1 of 7 from 3. He had some wide open looks. He finished 8 of 23, but you're still up 8 with 8 minutes to take a commanding 3-1 series lead, and they couldn't close it out. And Ant seems to be close to 100% because Ant was the difference as well and dedicated it to his late mom after the win. So a big win for the T-Wolves, and they saved their season.
Remember a couple of years ago when this would happen in the NFL, when a quarterback would go down and it looks like, that doesn't look good. That might be an ACL. I don't want to play doctor here as a bettor, but I need to probably check the in-play and books. The algorithms would not adjust. There was no like person taking over saying, oh my God, I need to adjust this because he's clearly not going to be out for the rest. That has changed now in recent years. And last night I thought was the prime example. I don't think I've ever seen such a quick reaction after the news came out. And so when it looked like there was a chance he was going to be kicked out of that game, they still had San Antonio as a 3.5-point favorite, and they were obviously favored on the money line, and the Wolves were around plus 130, give or take, to come back and win the game. So I watched that replay. They must have had the replay 10 times before they made the decision. I'm like, I think he's going to get kicked out. I took the Wolves on the money line. I know other people were betting the over, thinking he's going to be gone. They're going to go small ball, and we're going to watch a tempo go up.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they kicked him out, it completely reversed. It took like a second. So there's no doubt, like somebody who's in charge, and then there's like they all copy and paste, and it's all kind of the same thing, I think, set up anyway. They went from a 3.5-point dog, Minnesota did, to a 3.5-point favorite, and they were like almost a minus 180 to win the game. So that the window that you have now to bet during injuries is it's trimming. It's getting shorter and shorter by the injury, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah. That is odd. Yeah, and how you have to adjust on the fly. But also sometimes you're in a uncharted territory too. I mean, in the 5th round, Chimaev was minus $6, $5 to win the fight, when a lot of people thought it was a pick'em at that point.
Sure.
And they give it to Strickland by decision. So still, you kind of like Caesars and Will Hill putting that up, and you never know what the judges are going to do. Of
course.
But certainly he couldn't be a $5 or $6 favorite while we're talking late 4th, early 5th round, and he loses.
Well, especially in that sport. I mean, you have no idea the way judges are going to look at something like that. And if you think it's actually much closer than that, you got to take the dog.
But that was a tough fight to score, too. That's another thing. Yeah. I know. Yeah.
I remember that happened right away when the UFC was the only thing back during the pandemic. And there was we talked about every single fight card ad nauseum, 6 years ago now, but there was one fight card, I think, when they were in Florida. Again, nothing else is going on. Everybody's paying attention to that. People are betting this stuff like crazy. There was a guy who was minus 20,000 or minus 2,000, I believe is what it was, going into and during the final round. And he, like, nothing happened where the opponent like completely overtook him in the third round. And yet he won the decision. The dog did. Like, what are we watching here?
Yep.
How does that happen?
Yep. I will say 10.5 is too much, though, tomorrow night. I just think that's a lot of points for San Antonio, even though Wemby is the best player and what he means to the team. But it's certainly everyone wants to see OKC and San Antonio, and I hope we get it.
Yeah,
you know, the league wants that in the worst way because you got the Knicks already through now. So you would have a fantastic outcome no matter what if you get those three of the Final Four. And they're this close to doing it.
Here's how good the Western Conference is overall and how good it's going to be for the next, 5, 8, 10 years, whatever it is with Oklahoma City and San Antonio. The Minnesota Timberwolves are a really good basketball team. And it most likely that team will never, with this core, they will never even play in an NBA Finals. And they're really good, as we saw again last night. 10.5 is a big number. Is it enough tonight with the Thunder? They keep taking money against the Lakers.
Boy, this is going to be a weird environment tonight where you know the season's over. And I know Doris Burke commented on how quiet Game 3 was. But it's just, you know the outcome here. Now, I will say, great job that they've had the lead at the half the last 2 games. But they've met 7 times, and the Thunder have covered every game. And 6 of them have been blowouts. So, number one, I think you've got to look at Hachimura props again. He's been fantastic, and they adjusted him to 2.5 now with the made threes. But with OKC, it's just pick your poison. And Mitchell was awesome in the last game. So there's so much firepower. And again, Caesars and Will Hill won't list McCain for most made threes in the game. But it's just they can get whatever they want offensively. They're too good. The Lakers are beating themselves with the turnovers. That's also a killer. And they've done a nice job on SGA and making others beat them. But that's a good game plan from Redick. And I'm with Doug Kazarian. I would look at SGA points under again. But this
Doug's not on that tonight.
He got off it?
He got off it tonight.
Oh, wow.
Because he expects the Thunder to absolutely blow their doors off, and that could be, who knows, SGA with 30 by the middle of the third quarter.
I'm surprised he didn't come back with that. But it's the biggest home dog LeBron's ever been. And now it's just how high can you put the number? Because they've buried him here in every single game. Well,
this will tell you what a tweet from Evan Abrams, who's been on this show on the network many, many times. The Thunder will end up favored by 50-plus combined points against the Lakers. And if they finish them off tonight and they cover, they're going for the 4-0 straight up in ATS sweep. Only one team has had a 4-game golden sweep while favored by 50-plus points. That was the 2019 Bucks over the Detroit Pistons. So,
yeah.
Rarefied air here. The Opta AI stats at vsin.com. You're going to love this. One of their biggest edges tonight in the NBA is DeAndre Ayton points.
No.
Yeah.
No way. Oven mitts? Come on.
10-plus points at plus 104. They project 12 or more points out of him tonight. It's a 29.3% edge. They also like Jackson Hayes.
Oh, no.
Why?
Come on. Everything they're going to do is going to be from the outside. Kennard, Hachimura, bombs away.
Well, Hachimura has just been Mr. Automatic here.
Been great. The other thing, too, it's Austin Reeves. You're going to give him all this money? That's another thing. What are they going to do next year? Is it just going to be Reeves, Luka, maybe get Watson from Denver? Does they work something out with LeBron? I don't know.
That's a good question.
I hope it's not LeBron's final game with the Lakers. I don't know what the offseason's going to look like, but that's Austin Reeves had a rough go of it as well. But they're just too good and too much firepower, and it's a reason I said it'd be the biggest upset in history if it occurred. At least they, respectable in the first half. Then they just run out of gas in the turnovers, and OKC says, "Okay, let's get down to business."
Yeah, and the player widely considered the second best on the team hasn't played 1 second.
Yeah, I know.
Crazy, man.
And imagine if the lottery went their way.
I know.
Imagine
if they would have popped like top, I don't know, whatever, throw out a number, top 5. Because the Clippers got lucky.
They did.
My God, did they ever.
Worked out.
And we'll expand on that coming up.
Had to have it.
Oh, man.
Was big. Would have been big for the Heat, too, or the Warriors to get a trade piece for Giannis, but they couldn't move up.
Sure.
And I still think there's a pick left, right? There's still another pick next year in this Paul George trade? I think there's another one still.
Does it go all the way through 2027? I'll give you another one, and we'll expand on this game coming up as well. Pistons Cavaliers tonight. Opta AI, super high on Jalen Duren tonight. Points.
Yeah, to me, it's bet Harris till you lose. He's gone over his points prop every game in the playoffs, 10-0. He's 18.5 tonight. And just, we're telling the truth here. This is 8 straight average to below average games by the Cavs. They were up 17 in a must win. They blow the lead. Great job by Harden, hit the clutch shots. I think Detroit wins.
Do you?
I do.
Yeah. So originally, I wanted to bet Cleveland in this game. That run that Detroit put on them in the second half, and the fact that game was tied. And yes, Cleveland covered, but let's be honest here. They were very fortunate to cover that game. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I can back Cleveland.
Nah, Cade had 2 silly turnovers. They continue they're doing a better job from 3. And that's a big shocker in the series. Mm-hmm. Duncan Robinson's been awesome, and they're outscoring them from 3, and that wasn't supposed to happen. So, and I've been disappointed with the bigs for Cleveland as well. And once again, you don't know what you're going to get from Harden. So, also Detroit knows let's take care of business and get ready for the Knicks too.
Yeah.
To wrap this up, as I do think they'll win a game 5. So that was very, very concerned with the comeback and that they had to hang on for dear life in a must win.
Yep, exactly my thoughts on that. And I would say this, I actually kind of want the Cavaliers to come back and win the series. No faith in them to do that, just so we can lay 1.5 and 2.5 games with the Knicks. The Knicks would pound this team into oblivion. And so much to digest from the NBA draft lottery based on what the Wizards president said. Maybe betting the Wiz not to draft AJ Debinca is the play. We'll expand on that coming up next year on VSiN.
Let me get your attention real quick, podcast listeners. I've got something for you that almost feels too good to be true. First, credit where credit's due. If you're listening to this podcast, you're already leveling up your betting game. You're riding along with our best bets and top angles. And when there's a good game on, you're getting involved with a few props and alt markets as well. There's one more layer if you really want to step things up, and that's VSiN Pro. I've mentioned it before, but things are only getting better for our pro subscribers. We just rolled out our MLB prop projections, breaking down some of the best edges across strikeouts, hits, home runs, and more. And that's on top of everything else pro subscribers already get, including public betting splits, expert picks, and betting guides across the sports calendar. If you haven't tried it yet, stop sleeping on it. You can get your first month just $9.99 or save big with promo code POD26 on the annual subscription. Hit the link in the description and start cashing in with VSiN Pro. All right, back to the show.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
I'm more on the draft lottery here and some player props tonight on the board in the NBA as we head out to the Progressive Guest Line. Nick Whalen joins the program. He's with RotoWire, also co-host of a great show here Monday through Friday on VSiN called Prop Points. It's at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Hey, Nick, good afternoon. Thanks for the time today. How are you?
I'm great, guys. Good to be back with you.
I love how many props you have on a very small NBA card tonight. We'll get to those in a second. We just talked lottery. Your biggest takeaways from what you watched yesterday?
Yeah, I said it on our show, guys. I was a little bit disappointed, to be honest, that we didn't get some of the chaos that was on the table heading into the lottery. Now, if you're an Indiana Pacers fan watching this show, you're probably throwing up your arms saying, what are you talking about? We lost our pick. It was top 4 protected. But really, other than that, and then the perennial lottery losers, Brooklyn and Sacramento, both moving down. Like this was fairly vanilla. We didn't have a team jumping up 9 or 10 spots like we have the last 2 years with Dallas and Atlanta. I actually thought it would have been really fun, for the Hawks owning the Bucks pick and the Pelicans pick, the better of those two. Atlanta jumping up would have been really interesting to throw another big time piece on that roster. There was still the hope that Golden State, could get a life preserver in the lottery. Miami, OKC, obviously, if they had jumped up, that would have been a chaotic scenario. But it's interesting coming out of it, all these conspiracies and, is the lottery rigged? Is the league trying to help certain teams? We ended up with the Washington Wizards, the Utah Jazz, the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Chicago Bulls holding the top 4 picks. Those were arguably the 4 biggest tanking offenders in the NBA this past season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Good observation. Do you think Washington ends up trading the number 1 pick?
Do I think it actually happens? I'm not sure. I think they'll entertain it, though. They didn't exactly shoot down that possibility. And look, if you are Washington, specifically in this draft where holding the number one pick is a lot different than it was, say, 2 years ago when Zachary Reese-Shea went number one overall. Specifically with the Debounce connection to the Utah Jazz, to the state of Utah, playing at BYU, that is really, really interesting to me. You know, how badly do the Utah Jazz want to keep him in state? You know, could we see a Jason Tatum, Markelle Fultz type of situation? Hopefully it doesn't play out that way for the team, you know, taking Debounce at number one, which would be Utah in this case. But I don't think it's off the table. I mean, if you're Washington, you know, yeah, you brought in Trae Young, you brought in Anthony Davis. Doesn't really sound like Anthony Davis is planning on being in Washington for too long based on how he's talked about that over the last couple of weeks. But it's not like you dropped Debounce on this team and all of a sudden you're contending for a title. Like I think the Washington Wizards still have a lot of things to figure out. So it would behoove them, I think, in a lot of ways, if you could still get the number 2 overall pick, if you could pick up, say, maybe a lightly protected first round pick from the Jazz in the next draft or two, I think that would make sense, especially if internally they don't see that big of a difference between Darren Peterson or Caleb Wilson, whoever it may be, and Debounce.
Okay, the Cavs have won every home game so far in the playoffs. They made it interesting, blowing a 17-point lead on Saturday. They're laying 3.5. Mitchell found his offensive game. He had 35 in the win. Also, surprisingly, he had 10 rebounds. What do you want to do with Mitchell props tonight?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, guys, he's the only player on the Cavs who I trust at this point. You know, we don't have to go through the history with James Harden. Evan Mobley is very much game to game. Jared Allen, you know, who knows what you're getting. So I'm willing to look at the over 26.5 points for Donovan Mitchell, minus 118 over at FanDuel. You know, it is somewhat of a high number considering how slow the pace has been in this series. You know, even Cleveland shooting it at like, what was it, 56, 58% in game 3. You know, it's not like they put up 135 points in that game. So even when they're shooting it well, they're still struggling just to score in the one teens. As you said, they had that big second quarter and then immediately blew the lead in the third. But Donovan Mitchell is really the only guy night to night who I think is going to show up. So I don't mind him on the points prop. If it comes to James Harden tonight, guys, I'm playing unders. I'm looking at the under 26.5 on his points plus assists. Even in what was his best game of the series, one of his better games in the playoffs so far, still went under this number on Saturday, 19.7 assists, played 40 minutes in that game. And of course, the Cavaliers shot it well from the field. They were converting assists at a higher rate than they have really at any point in this series. Detroit, number 1 in the NBA, guys, at limiting opponent assists, both in the regular season and in the playoffs. And I think if you're looking at that points assist prop specifically, that's probably what's going to bring it home because we haven't seen these big scoring outbursts in the playoffs from Harden.
Yeah. All right. How about the Thunder and the Lakers tonight? OKC double-digit favorites here, taking money as well in this game. A miracle, almost. The market almost is telling you that for the Lakers to survive and extend the series somehow. What kind of game do you expect from LeBron?
You know, there is some speculation out there where it's like, well, you know, could this actually be his last game? I would be very surprised if that's the case, especially with how well he's played down the stretch. And even in this series, it doesn't feel like LeBron would walk away, especially, you know, ending his career on a sweep. But, you know, I think there will be some stat management from LeBron, if you will, as we talked about last week. You know, the Lakers are obviously going to lose this series, whether it happens tonight or 2 nights from now. But, you know, LeBron has a way of making sure to kind of distance himself from his teams when these things happen. So I don't mind looking at the points for LeBron, but the 2+3s is something that jumped out to me earlier today at DraftKings, minus 108. You know, LeBron is not the greatest 3-point shooter, but I think the volume will be there tonight, especially if we finally get a game where the Lakers are really down early. You know, I think for this being a 3-0 series, for every game being decided by double digits, the Lakers have actually been more competitive than I expected. You know, they were down 4 midway through the third quarter, in game 1. They've led each of the last 2 games at halftime before just completely letting go of the rope. So I think we see, you know, more success offensively from LeBron. There's just no chance the Lakers can even hang around if LeBron and Reeves aren't doing something.
Yep, totally agree. So are you expecting points then overall in this game? The total is 214.5.
I am. I actually do like the over quite a bit tonight. You know, we do see from OKC sometimes in these series where they dominate a lesser opponent that the defensive intensity that they bring to the table does kind of wane a little bit as these series go along. You know, to pull from just a very recent cherry picking example, you look at game 4 of that Suns series, which I think finished at like 253.
Yes.
Where, you know, it's not like OKC is just throwing in the towel, but it's hard to bring that same level of intensity when you're up 3-0 in a series. You know what the result is going to be. And, you know, if you're the Lakers, you're just throwing things at the wall right now. You got to try to do anything to extend this series. So I think we could see a little bit of a pullback defensively for OKC. So I do like the over. Each of the last two games, of course, have sailed way over with OKC putting up a ton of points. So that's one angle I would look at as well.
A good market, double-double and triple-double. And Cade had the triple-double in the last game. How about Hartenstein double-double at almost 4-1?
I'm going back to it, guys. I'm going back to it. He keeps dodging these by like one rebound. There were a couple games earlier in the playoffs where he was like 1 point short. He finished with 12 and 9 in game 3. He had 10 and 9 in game 2. He had 8 and 9 in game 1. I'm not backing off now, guys. I'm not backing off now. I think there's still enough value here. Plus 374 over at DraftKings for a Hartenstein double-double.
I love that observation. Same with this. Cason Wallace, I think, led the league in steals this year, and he's had a couple of nice games in a row. 2+ tonight you're seeing plus 173 on that.
That's what I saw this morning when I was putting together notes for our show. Yeah, and that's really the reason that I like this play. Coming into the series, we talked about Cason Wallace steals props. It was still 2+, and that was even money for game 1, which he went over. He finished with 3 steals. He has 1 steal in each of the last 2 games, but for a prop that was priced like it was going into the series, not a whole lot has changed to me. The Lakers are still turning the ball over a ton as the series has gone along. So, steals are obviously going to be fluky game to game, but someone like Cason Wallace is about as consistent as it gets with those defensive numbers. So at plus 173, I was willing to take a bite.
Yeah, big fan of that one, the Hartenstein one as well. Love the fact that you have so many bets tonight with only 2 games on the board. You can follow Nick on X. He's at Whalen, but again, replace the letter L with the number 1. So WHA1EN with RotoWire. And he does a show Monday through Friday here on VSiN called Prop Points at 1 o'clock Eastern with Jeff Erickson. Thanks, Nick. Best of luck tonight.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
And he joined us here on the Progressive Guest Line. So the LeBron threes, 2+ is like minus 108, like he said. Mitchell over with the points. The double-double on Hartenstein in the 4-1 range. And Wallace, he'll get playing time. He'll get minutes. What do you have? 16 points last game, and led the NBA in steals this year. I bet AJ Mitchell over 24.5 PRA tonight. Points, rebounds, and assists at even money. Saw that out there earlier today.
Okay.
He has been absolutely phenomenal with no Jalen Williams here.
Yep. And I tell you, the Cavs better win, or else this thing's over in 5. We're going to have a lot of off days in the NBA.
I would agree.
So this is, again, 12 of 32 from 3 in game 3. Not going to cut it. And they're going to have to get Strus and some of these guys going, and Tyson and Merrill, and it hasn't happened. Other people are criticizing Atkinson, that maybe he's not playing the right guys, and do something with the lineups. I don't hate Mitchell over rebounds, which I mentioned with Nick. He had 10. He was awesome, and he's sitting there at 4.5 here.
Yeah, I like his points over tonight as well, because he's spot on. He's the one Cavaliers player that you can trust.
Yeah.
And by the way, if they don't win this game tonight, I mean, the game 5 angle of the Pistons covering like every imaginable alt number is there, because this Cavaliers team just reeks of somebody, a group of players who would just say, yeah, screw it, we're not showing up tonight. They have James Harden on the team. That's all I have to say.
Well, you got to find Duncan Robinson. He did not play well against Orlando, and they really struggled in the paint and from 3. And he's had 15, 17, and 19 so far. And he's 4 of 7, 5 of 9, and 5 of 8 from 3. Mm-hmm. And that's why they lead the series.
Up next, Paul's going to recap a lot of the action and the big bets that came in over the weekend with win some, lose some. And what are we doing here, NFL? Why? There's no reason for this.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
It's good to have you on board as always. Thanks for watching on YouTube TV, listening on Sirius XM channel 158, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, or any of our affiliates across the country. We'll hit the playoff board that we have tonight in 15 minutes in the NBA and the NHL. Plus, we have Door 1 or Door 2 coming up at the bottom of the hour. I'm going to say Paulie's maybe the best question you've ever come up with.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. And that's going to be in about 30 minutes from right now. As we head out to the Progressive Guest Line to talk some hockey, Nick Alberga joins the program, host and director of Leafs Morning Take, also NHL Fantasy on Ice Podcast at the Golden Muzzy on X. Nick, thanks for the time today. How are you?
I'm great, guys. I just got off the phone with Stormy Buonantony, one of our faves, of course. And I'm like, you got to stop talking about Mitch Marner. We just know that hits deep here in these parts, guys. How are you?
Yes, no kidding. It's been awesome.
Are you guys pissed off watching him play here for the Knights in the playoffs?
I don't know if pissed off is the word, but it's like, where the hell has this guy been? Like, we're talking today, and I mean, if we're making a short list for Conn Smythe, and I get it, it's 2-2 in this Anaheim-Vegas series. Mitch Marner's leading the entire Stanley Cup playoffs in points, guys. Mm-hmm. And so Leafs fans are wondering where this was. I think it's been a different look. But again, that's been a very, very interesting series thus far. I was just giving her a hard time, but I think it's a big story, and Leafs fans a little disappointed by the way things have gone now for Marner in Vegas.
No kidding. But also how things have changed since the last time we talked to you. It was the sky is falling, horrible press conference. They're a laughing stock. And then you went out and said, hey, maybe take a flyer that they win the lottery. And they did. You cashed the ticket, and now you're going to get McKenna.
Oh, it feels great. It feels great. Like it's equivalent to like, and I've never done this, by the way. I've always wanted to. It's like going to Vegas and getting that liquid IV drop like the next day after a night out where you're out till 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Like that's the feel in this market right now, guys. And I'm not kidding. It was doom and gloom, very disappointing season. People were so turned off, then really annoyed and pissed off over the hire of John Chayka, who hadn't been in the league for 6 years. And what a boost it's done for this fan base getting that first overall pick. It's been a massive jolt, especially in a week that featured the Chayka hiring and also like sort of rumors about Auston Matthews' future. So suffice it is to say, I'm feeling much better than I did last time I spoke to you guys.
I'm sure. By the way, I've had the IV done multiple times. Pretty good. Now, we also know a guy who comes to town, and I mean, he gets after it. He'll go on like a 4-day bender when he visits. He says that when you get the IV drip, the day that you get here, he called it a cheat code.
Oh.
So before you go out and really tie one on.
Really?
Yeah.
Like you guys know, I always say at Circa when I come down once a year. Circa's unbelievable. And I've never dabbled. Like I've always wanted to try it. I might have to. That's a massive cheat code. If I set up my bender by doing that, smart play to your buddy.
Wow, that is Eddie play.
Yep. Okay. So what do you think tonight now? Right.
Yep.
Minnesota was awesome in game 3 at home. The home ice meant a lot. Evidently, Wedgwood was had to get taken out of the game, in fact, right away from that game because Minnesota was so good. Do they do it again tonight?
So I think the big story with this game is Jared Bednar going to Mackenzie Blackwood, right? After everything you just mentioned the other night, and full value to Minnesota. I mean, they're a really good team. It wasn't like Colorado was going to sweep this series. No chance in hell. I think this series still has the potential of going at least 6 games, if not 7 games. Having said that, I would not be shocked if there's a Colorado response. I think they're the better team. I think the big story in this series is the health of Joel Eriksson Ek. You talk about depth up the middle. I mean, it's unrivaled and unmatched to a lot of teams when you compare them to Colorado, but especially when you look at Mini and not having Eriksson Ek, what that does long term, I should say, for this series. And that's probably why I'm going to side here with Colorado in game 4, especially after it wasn't like a close game. And I think great teams find a way to bounce back after efforts like that. And I understand Mini's on home ice, but I expect the best, sort of look at Colorado tonight. So give me the Avs money line in this game.
I would not make a goalie change. He hasn't played since the mid-April, and we just saw how it went for Minnesota in game 2. I think that would be a mistake.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you bring that up because I think this year is an outlier in terms of the way goaltending's been tackled in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like I always like to bring up Washington years ago, as you guys know, in Vegas when they beat Vegas in the, I think it was 17. Like Philip Grubauer started that postseason, and it was actually Braden Holtby who took the net after, I think it was like game 3 or in game 3, and they go on to win the Stanley Cup. And this year, I think it's been a massive story in the playoffs where teams have really rode one guy. Now it's happened now and again, but of course, Carter Hart's been the guy with Vegas. Dosh Stahl's been the guy with Anaheim, Dobish in Montreal. And so I think it is a card, to your point, that coaches can play. Like a perfect example is in round 1, which is a lot different because closer to the regular season. But the Buffalo Sabres make the change going from UPL to Alex Lyon, and they find a way to beat the Boston Bruins. And now ironically enough, I think they find themselves in a scenario where maybe they go back to UPL. So I think it's a card to play. I think goalies are always kept fresh when it comes to morning skates, but you're right. Like, you really can't compare like regular season hockey in Blackwood's case to the Stanley Cup playoffs. But I think Colorado does have that luxury of having a 1-2 punch, and you have to show faith in your guys. Like, if you don't go to Blackwood, I think it's actually worse for that room, if you can believe it.
Okay. And I know you're not rooting for them. You're rooting against Montreal, but that is some atmosphere and environment inside and outside. How much trouble is Buffalo in?
Oh, a lot. I'm getting a lot of grief for what I had to say on my podcast today and on Twitter last night. I mean, I preface everything. I'm from Montreal. I was born in Montreal. I think there's one place to watch a playoff game, and I think we talked about this last week. It's La Belle Pro. It's Montreal. It's the Bell Center. It's unrivaled. But I think as a Leafs fan, I can't go for the rival. I mean, I think there's various indications even of that in Vegas. Like, you're not going to cheer for San Jose. You're not going to cheer for Arizona, whoever is the rival at the time. It's very similar for me. I bleed the blue and white, and that's who I'm going to go for. Montreal is like the most hated rival in the history of this organization. So that's why I stick that way. But I think you look at this series, I know it's only 2-1, but it might as well be 7-1. It just has that feel that Montreal has cracked the code to beating the Buffalo Sabres. And notwithstanding a rough patch in the second period in game one, maybe they could have a 3-0 series stranglehold, if you guys can believe it, in this series. So I'm very curious, because I think, and maybe I'm not giving Buffalo enough credit. They've been the best team in hockey for 5 months now. And so across the board, they just need better efforts, whether it's their crease, whoever they go with, Rasmus Dahlin in the back end, Owen Power, Jason Zucker was barely utilized last game, Tage Thompson, Alex Tuch, the list goes down and down. But I think Montreal just seems to have found the magic chemistry and elixir to have success. Like, there's a lot of depth. They're getting goaltending. Lane Hutson's been outstanding. They got Caulfield going now, which I thought was massive. Guys like Bolduc are scoring. It's difficult to shut that team down. So I'm very curious. I think the big game clearly is game 4. If Montreal wins, I think it's over. I almost call it a must-win here for the Sabres, guys.
Yeah, I don't disagree. So how would you bet that game 4, or is there a bet to be made in the series, in your opinion? Like, if you like them in game 4, would you just want to lay like a game and a half in the series?
Yeah, probably doing that. I like Montreal enough to be like, I think it's done in 6 games. That's probably the way I would play this. I don't think it gets to a game 7. I think Buffalo finds a way at some point to grab another game. That's probably the way I'd play it, to be honest. If Buffalo grabs one more game and then Montreal grabs the rest, then you're looking at a 4-2 final in this series. And it just seems like the likeliest outcome. I wondered throughout the season if at some point in time, ultimately Buffalo would run out of steam, and maybe we're at that point. And I think a team like Montreal is not getting the credit they deserve for how well they're playing right now. Like, they beat a really good Tampa team. They're really good on the road. They're not fazed by that environment. They have an amazing fan base. It's a difficult place to play in for the opposition. So, like, they check a lot of boxes. So that's probably the way I would play it, is Habs in 6 in this series.
How do they match up against Carolina then? I mean, they don't give up any
that's
goals.
The thing.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, you're right. That the under would be the tackle, I think, early on. Like, not to jump too far ahead. I don't want Sabres fans coming at me on social media. I think they're a good team, and there's a reason why they've been one of the best team, or the best team in hockey for the last 5 months. So they could easily bounce back here. I'm just trying to play the angle of how it's playing out in my mind and what I'm seeing, eye test wise. But I think you look at a potential of, like, whoever Carolina plays, whether it's Buffalo or Montreal. I think Montreal is the harder matchup. I think even watching those two teams play in the regular season, Montreal did well. Like, it's not like they ran out of the building. And I don't like the narrative out there that Carolina is going to steamroll either Buffalo or Montreal. It's just, I think if they play the Habs, I think it goes 7 games. I'd probably give a slight edge to Carolina. They're a really good team and are battle tested, and have been here many, many times. But we talk, we'll dovetail the conversation. We started about Mitch Marner and just his issues in the Stanley Cup playoffs in Vegas. Carolina's had its massive issues, guys, winning games in conference finals. Like, it's amazing for me as a Leafs fan to say that, but getting to the conference final has been no sweat. But in the Rod Brind'Amour era of him coaching, at least, they have 1 win in a Eastern Conference final series. Like, it's pretty crazy when you dissect it that way. So I think I'd almost have to lean with Montreal betting wise, just because it'd be too much value not to bet on them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Nick, about a minute left here. How do you envision the Ducks Golden Knights series playing out then?
I think Vegas is going to grab that series. I would not be shocked if they win the next 2 games. Would I be shocked at a game 7? Probably not. I know I'm taking the outside on this, but I think Vegas is a team that's battle tested. They've been here before. I think throwing a wrench in this is Mark Stone's injury status, which lather, rinse, repeat is a conversation every 2 months. So to answer your question, I'll take it to go 7 games because I really like the way Anaheim plays. They're free, they're loose. You can't discount Joel Quenneville, and I want to factor in the Stone injury too. So 7 games. I like Vegas in that series.
Great stuff. You can follow Nick on X at the Golden Muzzy. He is the host and director of Leafs Morning Take and also NHL Fantasy on Ice podcast. Nick, thanks so much. Best of luck tonight and beyond.
My pleasure, guys. Take care.
Great
Join
job.
us on the Progressive Guest Line. Coming up, tonight's playoff action in the association and on ice. I'll tell you which game features a 15-4 run between these two teams next.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Good to have you on board. We're live as always, downtown Vegas. Circa Resort and Casino is the spot coming up in this hour. Much more on the playoff games that we have in action tonight. Our best bets within pocket plays. Paulie, what do you think about the PGA happening to land this week?
Oh, unbelievable timing. With all these short series in the NBA and NHL playoffs,
Sure.
Fantastic.
Remember
timing.
when we did mornings a couple of years ago when Scotty got arrested? It was all chaos. What the hell's going to happen to this guy? So we'll talk about it now. We go to the Progressive Guest Line. Neil Parker, kind enough to join us, sports betting analyst at Covers. Good follow on X as well, at Neil Parker Bets. Hey, Neil, good to talk to you today. How are you?
Hey, guys, I'm awesome. It's a great start to the sports week. You mentioned I'm big into the NHL playoffs as well, and baseball's just starting to hit stride too. So it's an awesome point in the sports calendar, and we've got a PGA Championship here at a course that probably is going to be very scoreable this week. So it's going to be great for television and maybe not as great for some of those golf fanatics that have liked the recent trend of the PGA Championship sort of resembling a US Open style and scoring, right? So I think we're going to see some guys go low this week, boys.
Okay. Well, what kind of a course is it? How can you break that down for us? And then the weather overall, what's that looking like?
Yeah, it's damp already. It's supposed to be some precipitation, both round 1 on Thursday, round 2 on Friday. So ultimately, when this course is playing its toughest par 70, be stretched out at a max to roughly just under 7,400 yards. So it's gettable. And if it's not firm and it's not fast, these guys can air it out and bomb and gouge off the tee and take their chances with wedge in hand into soft, receptive greens, and strong ball strikers who play those wedge shots well are going to have plenty of looks at birdies. The only true defenses I think they're going to be able to have this week is if they let the rough grow up long and narrow in the fairways. Otherwise, these players, the technology, their skill sets, they're too good tee to green to not put up incredibly strong scores. And to put that in perspective, the last time the PGA Tour visited this track, 2018, Justin Rose won at -20. I know that Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy tore it apart. I believe both had opening round 62s. So when you take the technological advances that these players have in the bag and in their hand with the golf balls they're playing, we could see a number of low scores this week. So a lot of bunkers. That's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Large greens with, huge contours similar to Augusta National. But still, there's just not enough defenses here with wet weather and, really receptive greens. So you want those guys that can put circles on the card.
How about, let's change things up. How about some guys you're fading?
Yeah. Well, I'm really low on Rory McIlroy coming in. The number one reason is just Last week, he lost true strokes on and around the greens during the Truist. This is just his second event since winning the Masters. It's incredibly difficult to win back-to-back major championships. We all know that. So Rory's, I crossed him off my list this week. Obviously, he's an elite talent and could easily put it all together and win. There's no doubt about it. But winning back-to-back championships is hard enough. Major championships is even harder. So I'm fading Rory. I'm also fading Bryson DeChambeau. I think they're really going to try to set up this track with the long rough and narrow fairways, like I mentioned, and that will penalize DeChambeau if he's wayward off the tee. And he's also just not a strong approach player with his irons anyway. Ranks 61st in this field in true strokes gained on approaches this season. So that's 8 2026 events.
Okay, so those are two guys. How about Matt Fitzpatrick? Fading?
Yeah, I mean, listen, no one's playing better than Matt Fitzpatrick right now. That was an awesome story with his brother Alex. But I think, it's just so difficult to continue that elite play, and drop to 18 at the 2026 Masters. That was a bit of a letdown because he was in a position where he was a highly touted contender. Then T52 last week. So I think we've seen the peak of his powers already, right? He's already had the 2 individual wins. So I'm just looking past Matt Fitzpatrick this week.
Okay, well then how about another golfer who has been scorching hot? This run has been unbelievable by Cameron Young. I would tell you to always shop around. There is one national sports book that has him as low as 8-1 to win, completely unbettable. But, DK is almost at 17-1. Do you like Cam Young this week?
Yeah, I love him at that higher price. I wish I would have caught it. I'm in at plus 1,200. He paces this field in true strokes gained tee to green across his past 7 events. That includes the 2 victories. That includes the T3 in the Arnold Palmer and at the Masters. And what is most encouraging for me is that he also ranks 4th in adjusted scoring average on tour this season and is 2nd in bogey avoidance. So he's not giving strokes away. And also I think there's positive regression of front of his par 5 scoring. I mean, I think that was a huge storyline coming out of Doral where he didn't take advantage of the par 5s and still almost lapped the field. So there's only the pair of par 5s here this week, but I think that a little bit of positive regression there to his par 5 scoring paired with his excellent par 4 play. And like I said, he doesn't put many squares on the card. So he's going to be a tough man to track down if he continues his strong play. And every indication I see, both statistically and stylistically and just his poise on the course suggests to me that he, unlike I just said, Matt Fitzpatrick may have passed the peak of his powers. Cameron Young is right in the heart of an automatic stretch of golf that he's making it look easy. And that gives me the extra confidence to go to him at the top of the board.
And it looks like DK has by far and away the best numbers in the placement markets as well. You can get 3-1 top 5. And you can get plus 154 top 10 on Cam Young right now. That to me feels like it's absolutely worth a bet. Neil Parker, our guest sports betting analyst at Covers at Neil Parker Bets on X. DK is at plus 380 on Scotty Scheffler. FanDuel has plus 480 on Scotty Scheffler. Is there a way to attack his numbers this week, Neil?
So I think you kind of got to make a choice. I opted to not bet Scotty Scheffler this week. But if you do want that exposure, because ultimately in the outright markets, you just want a winner. So, you take your allocated bankroll for the week and you just shift more of it to the top of the board on Scotty Scheffler. And then you want to round out your card with more long shots in the, plus, 50-1, like down the board, right? You can't overload at the top. So if you want to bet Scotty Scheffler, I think he's got a great chance to win. He has 3 consecutive runner-ups. Those odds place him at about 17 to 19 win probability. Mm-hmm. So obviously you need to adjust as needed. I passed on Scotty Scheffler. I wouldn't, give anyone any grief if they decided that they wanted to take the guy with 3 consecutive runner-ups and stacked fields that has led this field in true strokes getting tee to green during that stretch. His adjusted scoring numbers, his bogey avoidance, everything you are looking for, he checks the boxes. It's just whether or not you're willing to lay a big bet at a short number.
Sure.
So that's a personal decision.
He's even money top 5 at FanDuel. I think that's probably the best number that you can find on him to go top 5. Let's go down the board here. Make a case for Russell Henley this week.
Yeah, I just think that very few can match his tee to green accuracy and precision. And in particular, he's an excellent wedge player. He's also a proven winner, and he's right at this point in his career where the next step is that major championship win. He's contended in the past. He was T3 in the Masters in April, and his past 2 major championships, he was also top 10, finished T10 in both. So we're just at this point where the next step for him is winning a major championship. And I think this course probably suits him as well as any track other than Augusta National that we'll see over the next few years. And I also feel like he's prepping his whole calendar, to make that statement and win that first major championship. So I think we're getting a great price. I think you can even find plus 5,500 out there. I get in at plus 5,000. So yeah, I really like Russell Henley this week. And I do think you'll see that his number might creep down a little bit. So
very good. Neil, great breakdown. Thanks so much for the time today, and best of luck with the PGA this week.
Hey guys, really appreciate it. Followed the show over the years, so it's a real honor to be on and talking some golf with you. And keep up the good work, fellas.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Really appreciate that. Back at you. And again, follow Neil. Good follow there on X at Neil Parker Bets, sports betting analyst with covers as well.
Ricky was good. Thought he was going to win.
Yeah. Yep.
That was fun.
What is
again, perfect timing. Because I think if the Pistons win tonight, they'll close it out in 5.
I agree.
We're looking at all these short series in the NBA and NHL playoffs potentially. So great to have a major, and I think it'll be wide open, and it'll be interesting with the course, too, and the weather.
Oh, it seems like that was almost 100 years ago now when they used to have it in August.
But they did the right thing.
Oh, they absolutely did by putting – remember that? Because it would be the Masters right away in April, and then it's like, hey, boys, now you got to wait until the end of June for the next major. Like, wait, what? And then the PGA was played on a weekend in August when you have preseason football the entire time.
A developing situation. A big hit at Wynn just happened. I want to throw some strategy at you, too. Something we've talked about on the show many times.
Okay.
It happened again.
I think I know where you're going.
Okay.
All right.
Bob Dancer, Randy McKay, that kind of thing.
I can't wait to hear what just happened, obviously. And up next, how about this? We'll tell you which player has gone over his prop 13 out of 14 games in this scenario on Follow the Money. It's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.